And now, apropos of what the congressman said, defending the American worker. That's the focus of tonight's angle. My reaction to our interview with President Trump was overwhelming.
Ingraham got to ask President Trump about these comments.
Laura Ingraham aired her interview from a couple of days ago, and they kind of clashed a little.
Getting a shot also from Donald Trump, who was on Laura Ingraham's show on Fox News Channel.
Ingraham correctly noted exit polling from last week's elections showed that voters say economic issues are their top concern.
His reaction to Laura Ingraham shows that they won't stop trying.
Affordability. It is a concern on the left and the right, and Laura Ingraham asked Mr. Trump about it.
Okay, well, I didn't want it to be about me. I want it about the issues, but you get the point. For 2 days, commentators, pundits, Trump fans, Trump haters found something interesting or provocative or maddening or encouraging in what the president said. It was about him. It wasn't about me. And that's the way it should be, because for the past decade, Donald Trump has dominated politics worldwide, frankly. He's defied his critics, he's demoralized his opponents, and he's delighted his supporters. Now, remember, 99.99% of politicians would have quietly retired after 2020, but Trump refused to quit because he's not a quitter. That's not who he is. So I found him in this interview more confident, more relaxed, and frankly, a lot more optimistic about his America's future than I've ever heard him before. So for the first time in history, today, the Dow hit 48,000. Well, wait, I thought Trump's tariffs were supposed to tank the equities markets. Come on. But through all the free market globalist caterwauling, he's never wavered from his belief that without tariffs, American workers, American industry, our entire economy would be toast. And I wholeheartedly agree. But there were flashpoints in the interview as well, and that got a lot of buzz. A few areas where we couldn't agree and where his most diehard supporters have a lot more questions, such as the issue of H-1B visas. Now, the president made the point that there are situations where the U.S. may need to bring in talented people from other countries to train Americans for highly technical work that was outsourced decades ago. Conversely, the base believes we have plenty of talent here now, and that importing hundreds of thousands of cheap foreign workers only discourages, especially young Americans, from going into those professions, engineering and other technical positions. Earlier today, the Secretary of the Treasury added some more context.
The president's point here is we can't snap our fingers and say, you're going to learn how to build ships overnight. We want to bring semiconductor industry back to the U.S. The president's vision here is to bring in overseas workers where these jobs went.
Who have skills.
Who have the skills, 3, 5, 7 years to train the U.S. workers. Then they can go home, the U.S. workers fully take over.
Well, that certainly seems more reasonable. But again, 5 years, 7 years, 3 years of training, it seemed like a lot. And if the visas were very limited and only for exceedingly skilled work, I guess that would be one thing. But in the tech world, there's a dirty little secret. American companies love laying off Americans for foreigners who will work for 40 to 50% of the wages in some cases. So why did Microsoft need 5,000 H-1B workers in the fiscal year 2025, when around the same time it announced it would be laying off a total of 15,000 workers? And why did Intel need 1,700 H-1B workers in 2025 when it announced that it was canning 2,400 American workers in Oregon back in July? Then, most infamous of all, the curious case of Amazon, which is nixing as many as 30,000 jobs across its corporate and tech sector, but is also the largest U.S. recipient of H-1B visas. And by the way, it wants a lot more. And by the way, going back to 2017, Trump has been leading on this issue.
Widespread abuse in our immigration system is allowing American workers of all backgrounds to be replaced by workers brought in from other countries to fill the same job for sometimes less pay. This will stop. That includes taking the first steps to set in motion a long overdue reform of H-1B visas. They should be given to the most skilled and highest paid applicants, and they should never, ever be used to replace Americans.
Well, that's the clarity and conviction that got him elected twice. And let's face it, no one in elected office during the past, 50 years has been a better champion for the American worker than Donald Trump. It's not even close, period, full stop. And I fully expect he will honor that distinction for the next 3 years. But there was also more consternation over the approach to allowing Chinese and other foreign students to take spots at U.S. universities. A lot of MAGA folks didn't like that at all. And it's not, by the way, as some Chinese influencers today said on X, I love this, it's not that the MAGA folks, certainly not myself, dislike the Chinese people. It's ridiculous. What they dislike is the Chinese system that represses Chinese people and uses them as human spies and saboteurs. Remember, when the CCP greenlights hundreds of thousands of their people to come study here, they're not sending them so they can learn about the wonders of Western civilization, Plato and Socrates, Greek history, become champions of individual freedom and take that message back home. Come on. They're sent here to do whatever is necessary to learn how to push the People's Republic closer to crushing America, to stealing from us, and for spying on us. But again, for those of us understandably perplexed by some of the president's comments, we cannot forget, what American president has ever been tougher on China than Donald Trump? None. Now, given China's growing strength, that's been amassed over decades of presidents who were out to lunch, President Trump inherited the most challenging situation, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this, that any president has faced in the last 50 years. He and his entire team are dedicated to countering the Chinese aggression that's building. And we see it in the way they're positioning their naval fleet off of Taiwan. We see it in the way that they're amassing, obviously, their rare earths and so forth. And so we're trying to counter that so we can remain independent and not become a puppet state of the CCP. And of course, at the same time, Donald Trump's trying to balance everything. He's trying to keep the peace and not, in his view, unnecessarily offend Beijing when we still have so many balls in the air. A better question tonight, perhaps, is to ask this. Where is Capitol Hill on this? I know that they've held some hearings on H-1B visas. I get that. And they have the China, caucus, and they've put out some really good reports. But it seems to a lot of Americans that it's only Trump and only his cabinet trying to figure out things like the rare earth problem. We squandered our advantage there. They're the only ones trying to really figure out how can we develop our own ability to make magnets, again, so we don't have to be dependent on a communist regime. Our ability to defend our interests where our military is a fighting force, not just a social justice club. Trump people did that, not Capitol Hill. So no one watching should forget any of this. Most on Capitol Hill, most on Wall Street, most in the tech world believe that we should have an unlimited number of foreign workers available to us in the United States. And many of those same people actually prefer foreign students to American students. That is a sad fact. So when you hear people dumping on this administration from the right, remember, Democrats believe you should get zero benefits from your American citizenship. Zero. Meanwhile, as we sit in our warm studios, and that's where I am, the president's trying to reindustrialize only the entire United States of America. That's all. And if you think Mamdani or the squad, they're going to stand up for you in their workers' garb and they're going to, in their shirt sleeves, get it all done. Maybe some of these mouthy new socialist primary candidates, they're going to get it done for you. Well, you haven't been listening to them. If you're a native-born American who grew up in something approaching a traditional household, they pity you at best and they loathe you at worst. So, there's always going to be disagreements on strategy and approach, and everybody should have their say. But to the more than 77 million Americans who voted for President Trump, don't flinch. No one's better at politics than he is, and in the end, he's a pragmatist and a populist. He's not a globalist, and he's not a sellout, and that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.